We didn't set out to make the film as a warning. I set out to make the film because I thought it was a really interesting premise. And I thought the challenge of presenting near future was much more interesting than presenting far future. And by definition of that, it becomes a warning. I think we're going to be closer than the film, I think. In other words, I think what's happening around us is getting there, is escalating awfully fast. I don't necessarily mean in the terms of the replication, although that is actually happening. I see there was actually an application to the Senate 3 years ago for replication of farm animals, pigs, sheep, chickens, for obviously consumption, which I think was turned down. But it's very interesting. It's like one step before, you know. Audiences change, and 10 years is a cycle, you know. I think when it was released 10 years ago, for some strange reason, the film played in a rather peculiar fashion. People weren't certain about it. It was only the few, the diehards, or the diehard science fiction buffs, and people who could take it a little better than the average audience enjoyed it. In other words, I think it's fair to say it opened soft, but with great curiosity and great argument. And I was accused of being a manic depressive and all kinds of things. And I was saying, guys, I see this in the street every day. You know, I'm just making a movie here. I think what's happened is, with the video sales and the Laserdisc sales, people have gone back to it, I think, maybe like a novel, to reread the novel, and thereby put all the elements in the film in its place, get used to it, and begin to enjoy it. And I think that's what's happened.
What's changed in your original? Well, what are the differences in your original version from the one that we also had?
The voiceover's gone completely. Both, I think, Harrison and I were both, a little unhappy about having to impose a voiceover onto an audience that works occasionally with movies, but in this instance, I think, becomes an interruption. And so you become disassociated from the movie by getting this verbal information, when you're going to find out what he's telling you later anyway, which is the whole point of making a movie. The happy ever after ending. Film noirs don't end that way, because life ain't like that, or is rarely like that. The ending that we have now is, well, you will see what the ending is when you see the film. And also the idea, I always felt in here, especially as it was a kind of film noir, I felt that there should be clearly a dark side to the story of the central character, of the Deckard character. In himself. And what I thought made sense was that this Deckard character could possibly have been a replicant. So that's gone back in. The film is a little bit Kafkaesque, is a little bit Marlowe-esque, is a little bit film noir. Then, in a way, in the tradition of that idea, there's a kind of logic in the full circle of that kind of dark story, is that it would seem to make sense that whoever the authorities were at that particular time, let's say the Tyrrell Corporation, would certainly put a Nexus 7 out on the road to see how he would fare in the world, in the environment.
But they gave him then, as they gave her, a never-ending life, which would make him different.
Well, she had a limited lifespan, as had the Roy Batty character.
But Roy Batty had 4-year lifespan.
4-year life. With her, we never knew. It was open because she was arguably the next stage or nexus. Was she a 6 or was she a 7? I think what would be curious to ask about the Harrison Ford character is, was he a 7 or was he an 8?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah. Well, that's the question.
We're not going to find out from the movie.
No, but you'll wonder. You'll wonder, and it's clearly there if you watch even the first version. There's a clue when he picks up the unicorn at the end, that little piece of origami, which was the character Eddie Olmos was always leaving his little origami around everywhere as comments on what he felt. And he left his visiting card, and there was this origami, which is a unicorn. Harrison Ford picks it up, looks at it, and it's almost like a confirmation of his reaction, because he nods and understands and agrees. So I'll put something back in earlier which will indicate that he could be.
But he knows who he is.
No, he doesn't know who he was, and therefore it's like, from the story, I'm hoping you'll get that he's suddenly aware of the fact that the Eddie Olmos character, representing the authorities, the higher authorities, knows who he is.